So we would expect over the next several months, Bitcoin to...
Major Bitcoin dip today. Do not be fooled. There's a lot going on here. In this video, we will talk about what comes next in Q4 and future outlook for 2025. Before we get into this, please be aware if you hold these altcoins, major unlocks coming in October. SUI, October 1st, 64 million SUI tokens unlocked. That's 2.4% of the circulating supply. Aptos, October 11th, 11.3 million Aptos tokens unlocked. That's 2.2% of its circulating supply. Celestia, October 30th, 175 million Celestia tokens unlocked. That's 82% of its circulating supply. If you hold these coins, expect volatility around these dates. This is why you subscribe to Altcoin Daily. We share info with you that the mainstream media ignores. We give you an edge in crypto. So let's get into it. My thoughts for Bitcoin Q4 and 2025. Now, we did break through this support line, meaning don't expect us to break up over all-time highs right away. There was a lot of resistance here, and now that we broke below this, I'd say we're range bound until proven otherwise. I think it's less likely we make it back to the bottom of this range this time, but of course that is possible. I am expecting much bigger things going into Q4, however. Understand, market conditions are different now. There's a reason we saw a 20% plus rally here. Abra CEO Bill Barhide is a crypto market expert. He articulates perfectly here why Bitcoin is actually in an uptrend and why you should expect a big move in about 4 to 6 weeks.
First, there was broad consensus that the Fed was going to cut rates, but more importantly, that the liquidity cycle has now started. And by liquidity cycle, I mean that there's kind of a global coordinated effort to push stimulus into the monetary systems across the world: China, Japan, the United States, Western Europe, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, whatever the U.S. does has a much bigger effect on global markets than other countries because of the global dominance of the dollar. But many were expecting 25 basis points. Clearly, markets globally have now begun to price in 50 basis points, and the feedback from the Fed that we're going to be getting more stimulus. China announced over the weekend, I believe, that the biggest stimulus probably in 15 years, I think since 2007 or 2008. Traditionally, certain risk on assets, Bitcoin have kind of trailed stimulus and liquidity by maybe 6 to 10 weeks. And so many had priced in 25 basis points and maybe slower stimulus. So maybe there was a little bit of that. But in broad measure, Bitcoin, because it's kind of a fixed float asset, deflationary over time, tends to be more of a levered bet on stimulus, right, and on liquidity. So we would expect over the next several months, Bitcoin to appreciate significantly versus kind of traditional risk on assets. And I would expect it's probably 4 to 6 weeks before the fun really begins.
So, besides price, what crypto narratives should we expect to pop over the next 6 months? Is it AI? Is it DePIN? Is it something to do with Bitcoin or Ethereum or BlackRock? What 3 crypto narratives are hot in 2025?
So, talking about that next evolution of DeFi, of crypto over the next 3 months, we'll say the next quarter, what should people be looking out for? What are the things that you're paying attention to in this market?
So there are 3 narratives that matter to me right now personally, right? So, and that I track a lot at Abra. The first is, Bitcoin as kind of a hedge as sound money. Not necessarily a hedge against inflation, but just a hedge against government's policy run amok. Right. And I think we're seeing that play out. Larry Fink has woken up institutions to that. But people all over the world in emerging markets, in war zones, in Ukraine, they figured this out on their own. They don't need Larry Fink to tell them that. Number 2, I think that there's this kind of convergence coming between crypto, smart contracts, and AI. Right. When you think about autonomous agents can't be autonomous if they require a centralized stored value bank account system to process transactions that can be shut off. Right, just like truckers in Canada can have their bank account shut off, right? So crypto and smart contracts is the only way that's going to work. And I believe that it requires a highly scalable, always on, highly available layer one technology to make that happen. And these next generation layer ones are showing great promise. And the last narrative that's interesting to me is gaming and memes, right? So the great thing about gaming and memes is they've acted as a fantastic test bed over the last couple of years to show us that these next generation L1s can scale massively. Basically, millions of people have participated in a global test to show us that using meme tokens and games, that we can actually build scalable, decentralized systems now, which we couldn't before, right? You couldn't build scalable applications on Ethereum 5 years ago because the transactions would have cost you $15, $20, whereas now they're basically free, right? And so these three things are basically showing us that we can move and migrate toward a truly decentralized internet, which is what the internet was supposed to be all about in the first place.
So what I'm expecting is sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so sometime in October, maybe very early November, we finally can break above this resistance. Now, right now, the resistance is at about 66,500. Perhaps in 4 to 6 weeks, the resistance will be at 65,600-ish. Either way, we have to break above this resistance. We'll probably retest all-time highs, probably come back down, retest the resistance, which has turned to support. So after Bitcoin is clearly above $70,000 and the market realizes that, I expect that's when what the Abra CEO is talking about. That's when we're really going to see things skyrocket. So I expect Q4 of 2024, Bitcoin breaks above all-time highs, and then the next narrative is Bitcoin's going to 100K. Bitcoin's challenging 100K. Now, whether that happens in Q4, it is possible. I'm not sure if it's likely at this point. Of course, if things get really bullish, it could be likely. I expect in Q1, maybe even Q2, but probably Q1 of 2025, Bitcoin hits that 100K. And then we have, who knows, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, where we really see Bitcoin rally. And then it's a question of, well, how high does Bitcoin go for 2025? That's what I'm expecting. Guys, subscribe to Altcoin Daily. We drop one video every day, keeping you informed. There's so much to talk about around crypto. This is going to be a hot quarter and hot year for crypto. Now is the time to get serious. I want to see you tomorrow, but let's jump to this. Give us your price outlook.
Final question real quick. I have to ask about price. We've had a lot of people talk to us about markets and say that they expect Bitcoin to still hit new all-time highs by the end of the year. Are you in that camp? Do you believe that? And does it matter if it does or not?
In my opinion, it doesn't really matter, because if you look at the liquidity cycle over the next 18 months to 2 years, we have to refinance the debt at lower rates. If we don't, we're screwed. And so what that means is massive amounts of liquidity has to come into the system to do that. And as a result, I think Bitcoin is going to, skyrocket over the next couple of years. I think the advanced layer ones are also going to skyrocket, and I think Ethereum is going to also appreciate significantly as well. Is it going to happen in December versus March versus next summer? I obviously have no idea, but I do believe it's going to happen.